we're going to open up the public hearing. We have two public hearings that are going to be going at pretty much at the same time tonight. The first public hearing that we have to hold is not on the budget, but it is related to the budget. It is the Primex rebate public hearing. And what that means is that the insurance company has given us a rebate. And in order to apply that rebate to what we want to do, we have to hold a public hearing for that.
Right. It's an unanticipated fund.
Right, it's an unanticipated fund from Primex.
Health trust.
Health Trust. I keep saying Primex, it's Health Trust. Okay. What that means is they're giving us a rebate of, I don't have the amount.
I believe it is.
Debbie has the amount.
I believe it's $41,000. Let me just, hold on. Oh, we got that from today.
We get the amounts, but we don't have the paperwork.
Where is it?
So as Debbie's finding the exact amount, but the plan to do with the Primex rebate is to accept it as a lump sum offer to the school. We will take it. We have in our CBA an amount that we pay for the teachers' health benefits in a part that they pay for the health benefits, a percentage. So we're going to take the plan is to take the amount that the health trust will give us and portion it to the school and back to the teachers on the portion that they pay. Okay, and Debbie, you have the numbers?
Yeah, I'm going to make a motion.
Well, okay.
I'm going to make a motion to accept as unanticipated funds the health trust refund of approximately $41,566 to be used toward expenses related to COVID and other unanticipated expenses, minus the a percentage that would go back to the employees who paid a portion of their health insurance.
Yeah, I said teachers, but I meant staff.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. In order to have a public hearing, we are not going to close that motion until 6:15. Okay, that was the plan tonight, and then at 6:15, we'll start the regular Strafford budget for next year. So during a public hearing, anybody can speak at this time pertaining to that motion that Debbie made. And seeing 6 people here tonight, does anybody have a question?
I think it's pretty clear.
It's pretty clear? Yeah, so you'll be getting a percentage back, the percentage that you put into health benefits, and I think
And dental.
dental, yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know what the percentage on the dental part is.
So if we have, if an employee pays 5% or 20%, then in proportion, that would go back to the employee. So I think it seems as though, according to the calculations we received today, approximately $34,000 of that would go back to the district to be used to cover expenses, and about 8 would go back to staff.
I did not take roll call to start the hearing. I think I will go back and do that. Debbie,
Yes.
Misty,
Yeah.
this is not the vote, this is just for attendance. Gary? Yes. Erica?
Here.
And we have Principal Kathy and Vice Principal Amanda here, as well as our Superintendent Monica. Okay, that's who is in here today with us, who is present with us. So are there any, if you want to, questions? Ladies, anybody? Mr. Freeman? Okay. Is it Dr. Freeman or Mr. Freeman? I don't know where you are.
John.
John, okay, I like that, because that's how I've known you since we moved here. I mean, our kids played together when they was small, exactly. So that is the plan for that? I know, I'm looking at the clock too.
Right, it's 6:15.
It's 6:15?
Mhm.
Already? It is 6:15. Okay, so hearing no questions at all, we're going to put it to a vote, and then we'll close this portion of the public meeting. So, because we have people on Zoom, we'll be taking roll call vote. Debbie?
Yes.
Oh, let me see, I want to make sure, do we have to read the motion back? We have to read the motion back before we take the vote in a hearing, so.
I don't know if we have anybody to read the motion back, because our secretary isn't here. I can try to summarize the motion.
Yeah, just give us a summation, please.
The motion was to accept the unanticipated funds of approximately $41,566 from the health trust refund to be used to offset some of our COVID costs and other anticipated costs this year, in addition to refunding the teachers, the staff, the proportion in which they paid into their health and dental insurance.
Second. Debbie, 3 seconds?
You can second it again, if you like. Debbie?
Yes.
Misty?
Yes.
Carrie? Yes. Erica?
Yes.
And myself, yes. So that motion carries unanimously. And we'll leave it up to our business office of when the staff will get their refund back and what we put into our coffers for this year. Okay. So the next part of so that hearing, I declare that hearing closed on the health trust. We're going to move on to the Strafford budget public hearing. Any members are here for the public hearing? I'm not going to go through another roll call. We're all here. This is going to go a little different than we have in the past. In the past, we've gone line by line by line by line. And because this year is a unique year, we are doing it a little bit different because we have a couple of items that are driving the budget. And those items are the obvious parts. I mean, if we have one account that we might be up $100, but most accounts are zeroed out right now. Everybody has a chance to have the budget. It came in this packet. Everybody has a chance to grab a budget and look at it. If you find any questions, you can, but if you look at the budget, you will see that the bottom line is up 2.9%. Is that correct?
Yes.
2.9, I want to double check myself. 2.9% of the total of next year's budget is up 2.9%. And the reason it is up 2.9%, and I welcome any board members to jump in at any time, and I don't mind if you overtalk me if you have to, steering anybody in the wrong direction, let me know. If you look on page 3 of the packet that you just received, you will see the reason why we're up 2.9%. And these are items that have already been either negotiated or are out of our control for next year. Okay. The biggest one is New Hampshire Retirement. The legislature in Concord each year has been whittling down the amount that they pay towards retirement for New Hampshire teachers. And by doing this, they have raised the statutory employer rate again. It was 11.17%, 14.6, and for other staff members, 17.8 to 21.02. By doing that, that adds $148,000 to our budget next year. That is the difference in retirement money that we will be paying because of that move that was made and conquered by our legislature. I mean, they're looking to save money too there on a different level, but they're passing it on to the all towns and cities to get more independent of their own retirement budget. So I can understand a little bit, but it does hurt our towns. So for the first item, it's $148,000 that is driving the budget up to 2.9%. Our health and dental insurances, even though we just got a rebate that we accepted, is going up 2.6%, and that would be $63,400 based on what we have now for staffing and what the staffing takes for benefits. The third item is the new SAU. Deb, do you want to speak to this one?
Sure. Most of that cost is related to the one-time startup cost that we discussed and was in the original plan, such as computers, financial software, the furniture for the SAU and such. So that's basically that.
Okay. So that cost is $42,500. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
I thought you were done.
I just wanted to, that cost will be offset by the fund balance that the SAU holds. For those of you who remember, for years, the SAU has been, a school district cannot hold over any of the money left at the end of the year, return it back, right? The SAU is able to hold back money. So the SAU has been keeping money over the last several years, and they've accumulated, right now, we've been giving some of it back. I think they have about $250,000, something like that. So we're getting back when we leave the SAU, after the final audit's done, the books are closed, our amount should be $68,000 that we're getting back. So that amount would be offsetting our startup costs, and we had anticipated that when we created the plan.
What's that?
Yep.
Okay. Salary and wages, we are in the second year of a 3-year agreement. Is that right, Mr.?
Yeah.
Okay, second year of a 3-year agreement with the teachers and the paras. The second year, this was discussed last year at our March meeting when it was voted on by the town. The second year, the increases are $138,800. That's another driving factor. And now that could change depending on if personnel change, if there's retirements, if there are people that decide not to be with us anymore, move on to a retirement situation or someplace else or another school, that could change by different hires in and out at that point. And the final cost is that we are looking for a possible special education placement this year. We cannot get into this too much. You would identify someone, we're not going to do that. But there may be a placement that is catastrophic to us, which could be $110,000 for a child to be placed in a particular educational environment that would work for them. So that's $110,000. So the total of that is $502,700 for all those drivers. If you go to the final page in your budget, you will see that our budget is up $341,666.44. The reason that is than the 502 is because we have cut in other places. So we are still, if we did not do that, the budget would be up a lot higher than the 2.9. It'd probably be around 3.5 or 4 at that point. If you go to page 33 in your packet, and you look at the estimated tax rate, this is what most people look at, and they want to see what their taxes are going up. The tax rate for the school would be going up from 1673 to 1752. Now, we also have some revenues that we may be sitting on at the end of the year that could knock that amount down too. That depends on how much we turn back to the town in funds that we do not expend. Okay, talking school talk when I say expel it. Yeah, we will have monies left over. We customarily, in all the years I've been on the board, we have never gone into a deficit budget, so we've always had money left over that we like to return to the town to offset the taxes. So hopefully we could have some to knock that down pretty good, to knock that almost in half. So that would be our budget for this year. So that's what our plans are right now. 2.9% would be the increase. Without anything returned to the town, it'd be less than 2.9% if we continue on our way of looking at every line and turning money back at the end. We might also get some unanticipated revenues from different places that we can apply to that. Sometimes that happens, sometimes that doesn't. We'll get rebates from different places. Our final co-brown bill also depends, this depends on how much money we get back from our co-brown line. If we don't spend it all, we'll be using that money to offset the taxes. We always put a little buffer in the co-brown line just in case a lot of kids move into town that we didn't budget for. We have a little buffer in there, and it's usually 5 places or 5 tuitions that we put in. If we don't have that this year, that money goes back. If there's less kids in the 5 that have gone to co-brown, we'll turn that money back too. So they'll have, we'll get a, and that comes on our last bill. We won't know that until almost the end of school. The co-brown is almost on a per diem basis, or they are on a per diem basis that they charge us. Money is calculated per day for the student at the end, and we'll get that. If whatever we don't spend on those days, if somebody, say, moves out of town, or someone goes to a swap school, or goes to another school that's a little less than co-brown, then we do get rebated on that. Okay. So at this time, what would you like to do, Deb? Deb's asking.
I didn't know if people wanted to look on page 33, it just would explain some of the revenue that we're expecting, and that's been calculated into the tax rate. So the $25,000, I don't know if Carrie maybe will speak about that. The school owns some property, and there is a portion of that property that we are allowed to maintain, and it does need to have some timber removed. And so we will be able to have some proceeds from that. That's the anticipated amount, Carrie. Yeah. And it's not for clear cutting or anything like that. We're not allowed to make income, but since we have to maintain the forest, we do need to do some cutting there. And then the $68,000, you can see there, that is what we're anticipating from our share of the SAU fund balance.
Could I just say something?
Go right ahead.
Yeah, on the forestry, our land, we have 400 acres, and it has not been logged in 33 years. So we're going to be looking at a forestry plan, and we're going to do it right, and it's going to be healthy for the forest, and it might be a little healthy for our pocketbook, but that's to just be a bonus. But really excited about it, and I have a lot of people, like a couple of foresters that we've already walked it, and it's a pending project right now, but I'm hoping by this time next year we'll be logging, because traditionally winter is the best time to do logging, and so something I'll be working on this year, and I think it's just gonna be a win-win, and we're on Bear Claw, who they have like 300 or 400 acres in conservation, and they'll be on board as long as we have a plan, because it's healthy, and there could be some teachable moments and stuff, there's you never know, it could really turn into something good. So that's one of the things I'm working on, and that's about it for right now.
And our New Hampshire adequacy grant money has gone down, and I just we need to just do a triple check on that, because I received something this week, an email saying that the money may have gone down even further. Do you know about that? Is that true, Monica, or has that been calculated already?
I am not, I can't answer that,
Okay.
but I'll have Glenn look into it.
Okay, thank you. So all the revenue is taken into consideration when they estimated what our tax rate will be.
If you turn to page 35, you can see the calculation for household tax impact in the middle of the page, in the bottom. Okay. Anything else on the board at this time? Anybody, any other member want to speak to any article or any
Are you gonna do the warrant articles? Just
The warrant articles come after this one.
Okay.
We will talk about the warrant articles, they'll come next. Well, the budget is subject to what you see here, not including warrant articles. The warrant articles would be added on if any warrant articles passed. So we would open the floor out to questions right now. Ms. Dolan?
Audrey Dolan, Wig Hill. I just want to make sure I'm understanding this clearly, that, when you said we were going to get some money that's going to offset the SAU, right? So you said that there was a certain amount of money off the top that was, let's say, 42,000 something, and then 68 offsetting. So does that mean that to start up the SAU, it's going to be the 68 plus the 42?
No. The 42 is, the excess of what we paid last year to the SAU. So that was a budget driver, although this year we would have gone up guaranteed $12,000 to $13,000 because I know how much that they increased each salary and their insurance and all their things went up too. So we probably, last year we paid $395, $60, maybe $807 or something like that. And I would anticipate that we would have, if we were in the SAU this year, be paying $408,000 at least, or $410,000, which would have been 3% increase. So what that means is above the $395, whatever it was that we paid last year, there's a $42,000 increase. So we're looking for budget drivers. What went up from last year?
Okay.
Out of the $42,000, the majority of that cost is the one-time startup fee. So it's not going to be an annual thing. We're buying all new computers for the SAU, we're buying furniture for the SAU, we're buying the financial software, we're buying modems, we're buying all these things. And that is the one-time startup cost, but it's going to be offset because we're getting this revenue that we didn't anticipate from the SAU of $68,000. So actually the $68,000 will not only offset that portion, but will offset the whole budget. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Without that 68, it would have been more than $17
Yes.
and 53 cents,
Exactly.
52 cents for the increase. It would have drove it up
Right.
higher than that. Okay. Any other, yes, Eric, go ahead.
Eric Collins on, the modular that went up there this year, is that part of the $42,000 or is that just from somewhere else?
That was from a grant last year.
Okay.
That was from a grant. We had a one-time extra adequacy grant, and because of the situation where we thought we needed it for a health center last year, when we were trying to open up the school, we were able to use that money to purchase that, which is great.
And Kerry was the driving factor
Yes.
of bringing that in for us this year before we actually split up. I mean, we're still on SAU 44 until June 30th. We'll be SAU 105 after that.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Stephanie Dutcher, Roberts Road. I had a question, the forestry, is that the property that's adjacent to us that we have called conservation?
The
Is that the 300 acres?
one that abuts your house?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
It's, yeah, 75 of it is not in conservation.
Right,
Yeah,
and you're gonna be working on the conservation part?
we're gonna
Or
we'll start with the 75.
Okay,
Because,
so that's down at the front of the road off of 202A?
yes, at Johnson,
Yeah, Johnsonboro.
yeah. Johnson.
When you go into the Johnsonboro ride side from 202A, they'll go in, from what I understand, on the Johnsonboro Road and work their way towards your house.
Okay,
Okay, they won't go right up against it, but that's the,
right.
and they're
No,
gonna do,
it's just, there's only a couple of us houses on that road,
Right.
so if you're gonna be up and down that road or anything, are we gonna be notified?
Well, we have a forester that will be managing it,
Mm-hmm.
and I will definitely mention to that phone, but
Yeah,
I'm sure, I'm sure
it's
they're
just a
mindful.
small road and we have to maintain it ourselves, so a lot of heavy trucks going up there and everything, it's gonna do do another
No,
one?
the trucking will go in from the Johnsonboro side.
Okay,
As of now, the plan would be coming in from the Johnsonboro side, going up to the first bridge. I don't know if you know what that is,
Mhm.
okay? And, it'll be a selective cut, Terry?
Yes.
Yeah, and so it won't be a clear cut, you won't,
oh, yeah.
we won't be wiping everything out like those houses further down the road where they put those new
Right.
houses in. Okay, it won't be like that, it'll be selective cut with a few logging trails in there taking out valuable.
Okay. I just didn't know if there was gonna be a lot of stuff going up and down our road and things like that, so.
No, we're gonna try to keep them off there,
Okay,
okay?
thank
So
you.
I think, the impact, I know there's only a few houses on your road, but the impact to you would be great. Where there's no one on Johnsonboro Road, we would rather have the impact going in on the Johnsonboro Road.
Right, exactly. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And the Johnsonboro Road probably could hold it. I mean, there has been logging trucks that have gone in before from some other town people that own a little bit beyond the two bridges right there. And then also on the left-hand side of that road is the back of the National Guard and a few other people that have logged in the past. So
Okay.
National Guard has put that new road and gate and everything else in there,
Yes.
so it's easier to use that side than your side.
Wonderful, thank you.
And I'm sensitive to that because I wouldn't want that happening to my road too, so,
Right.
yes,
I just have for clarification, and this is.
we need a name.
Oh, sorry, Sarah Kern, Water Street. I was under the impression that you got the modular with COVID in mind. Can you speak up a little? I thought that
in
we
mind.
first got the modular with COVID in mind, for the nurse to have an outdoor
Right.
space to
Yes,
use.
yes.
Correct?
Yes.
So I'm just trying to figure out if budget-wise, was that with, a grant that we got? Do they now know that we're using that for the SAU? Do they, is this something that we need to be?
It was originally,
We used, we had a one-time adequacy grant and we used that money out of that because we needed it last summer.
What she's asking is if we bought it primarily for the COVID.
Right, I guess I'm just trying to see, because sometimes if it's attached to grants or if you get.
Oh, no,
refunds,
no,
that's
we could have
something-
used that
I'm
money
just trying
for
to
anything we
clarify.
wanted. There was no strings attached. It wasn't
Okay.
attached to COVID. We just happened to have a source to pay for it and we thought we needed it then. So we tapped into that.
Okay.
And originally, they were planning to put the SAU and the other modules out
Right,
on
I'm
the
not.
side of the building, but then something happened.
People didn't like that building because they felt that there were some issues to it, so
There's no
we
plumbing.
were, yeah, we already had, yeah. that's
There's no
right.
plumbing.
There's no plumbing, there's no plumbing, so we ended up not using that. We were gonna use an alternative way to do it, but that's okay. We ended up doing it, over here where there was plumbing, there was electric, there was already a pad, and we got a great deal, and it was awesome. And he's been doing a lot of the work himself, like getting things ready for us. So we're getting a lot of free labor.
John's gonna help me now. I already.
You recruited him?
He's been really good. We're very.
I don't think he knows what he is.
You said you were gonna pretty it up at one time.
Yeah, he's painting it for us. Harry's doing this on his own. It's pretty awesome. Yeah.
It's gonna be nice.
Have you been in it?
Like the rest of the school, it's gonna be nice.
Have you been in it?
I looked in from the outside.
Oh, okay.
It's really nice inside.
Other questions? Other questions on the budget? Yes, Mr. Long?
Audrey Nolan?
Yes.
I know that the budget is set and we have our staffing for this year, but should money open up due to, maybe teachers at the upper level retiring and you're hiring people at a lower experience level, so you might have a little money, will our administrators have an opportunity perhaps to hire if there's enough money in the budget to hire perhaps a language arts teacher at, let's say, the 8th grade level, because right now we have one ELA teacher for 7th and 8th, and it significantly cut the amount of time that students got with their teachers. We went from, we used to have a 6-day rotation, so they would have ELA every day, and then every 2 days an extra ELA when we had 3 teachers at 8th and 3 teachers at 7th and the kiddos. rotated. So in essence, they went from 8 classes to 6 classes when we did the rearranging of the 7th and 8th grade team. So I'm just asking the board, would our administrators have that choice to hire if we could add back into that 7th and 8th grade team that extra language arts teacher?
If
I
our
think it'd be a-
administrators, I'm sorry, I thought you were done. If our administrators feel the need for that, and we do have the extra money, I think the board would go along with our administrators, but that's up to our individual board members to vote that in.
Okay, wonderful, thank you.
Does any board member want to speak on that?
I would only say that I would trust our administrators to make instructional decisions that meet our students' needs, and I can't imagine this board not supporting that if we could budget it.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, anybody else? We're gonna close the hearing if there's no other questions at this time. Eric, go right ahead.
Eric Bowman's on, I just have one question to that, I know there's always been, or in the past few years, there's been a talk of trying to up math because there's a shortage, has that been rectified?
We'll have the administration talk about that. Kathy, Amanda, go ahead.
So I'm happy that you guys have. So the change that Ms. Dolan is referring to, because I did pull it up, in part did impact. So ultimately, ELA in the past for 7th and 8th grade was 220 hours a year. And it did go down to 135, but math, science, social studies all went up from 120 to 135, plus math got the additional 67 and a half for the intervention block for 5th through 8th.
So it's a lot better off than it was a couple of years ago.
For math, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And science and social studies also, it brought the content areas more even.
Understood.
Okay. Well, once we close the public hearing on, well, I guess we could do the warrant articles in the public hearing and then close the whole part. Yeah, let's go to part 2, which would be the warrant articles. And you will find those on 5. 5 of those. Then we'll keep it open longer with the budget, with the warrant articles, in case you come up with any more questions at this time. So Article 1 is the voting, is the voting article. It's been posted at the school and at the town office. And it's been posted in at least 2 public places. And that's what the requirements are. There'll be 2 board members up for election this year, 2 3-year terms, and 1 district clerk for 2-year term. And that voting will take place on, at the town hall on the voting day, which is usually.
6th day of March.
6th day of March is our meeting,
Oh, what's,
yeah, I
why
believe.
does it say Article 1 will be taken up at
Yeah.
9 a.m. on the 6th day of March? Is that not true?
The,
Should be the 9th, huh?
it would be the 9th, correct? The 9th, yep. It would be the 9th, they turned it upside down.
Let's see. When is, it's a Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
Our calendar.
The 6th would be the 6th would be the meeting here, if that's what we agree to do tonight, to continue with for the district meeting. This is the public hearing that precedes the district meeting. District meeting is when the town comes out to vote on this budget. Tonight is a hearing to talk about it, and the 6th is when you actually have a vote to it.
So the 9th would be the elections, but then when would we do the 5th or the 12th if we continue? We don't know yet.
We don't know yet. We have to decide tonight which day we're gonna put that on. So anyway, that 9th will be the day that you will go to town hall and vote. And then Article 2 is the appropriation for the budget, which is $12,105,033 for the support of schools, payment of salaries of the school district and the officials, and pay any statutory obligations that we've entered into, such as contracts for transportation, things like that. That is the warrant that'll keep the schools running. That is the warrant that keeps everything going within the school district. If that is defeated, we will do a one-time second meeting for cost items only. If we need to, but I don't think the budget is gonna change much because we are, of those drivers that are obligations that we have to pay. The only way that we could get the budget down, it would be to lay off personnel, and that's something we never want to do, so. We like the class ratio that we have in Strafford. It's a great learning environment, the teachers do a wonderful job, so. But that would be the only place that we could actually tip into that would be in control by some. Article 4 would be to raise and appropriate $25,000 to be added to the capital reserve fund for the education of persons with disabilities. Now, that is our rainy day fund. If we don't budget during a budget session like this for someone that may move to town that needs an out-of-district placement that could be in the 100 to 200 to even higher amounts, as $200,000 for a placement that we would be obligated to under special ed laws. So we've kept that going. Right now, we have $210,000 in that account for a catastrophic case in case we have it. What that does, it keeps us from going to the town the following March and asking to raise more money on top of what we already asked for so that we don't go into the red in our account.
And also, if we don't have any extra money left at the end of the year, then no money goes into this account.
Exactly.
This is only if at the end of the fiscal year, we have a balance, then we take $25,000 out before we return it and put it in this account.
That's correct. Okay, the next article, Article 5, is to take 25,000. We used to ask for 50. We've gone back to 25. This was established in 1985. We're establishing this fund. This is the sum that keeps us in case we any catastrophic problems to our site right here. Anything that would happen on the site, our buildings or anything else, we would take money out of the capital improvements. When this gym had the issue of the crumbling walls that you can see all these braces here, we had to dip into the capital improvements account to fix that. We've had to dip into it for the boiler.
And the septic system.
And the septic lodge.
We have been using this
Oh
a
my
lot lately,
goodness,
so we
septic
want to
system.
replenish it because we've used it.
Yeah, the septic system, if you're living in the country, you're gonna have one that's gonna go
Right.
someday, and it's gonna be a big time bomb sitting underneath on the land, and if that happens, we have money to get it done without coming back and asking for more.
We're very prudent about that.
Yeah.
A lot of school districts don't have capital reserve funds.
Yeah.
And they catch themselves in trouble sometimes, so. Weren't we applauded by?
Yes, the State Board of Education called us for both those accounts.
What it allows us to do is not come back to the voters, ask for additional money at the end of the year that really pushes the tax rate way up. Article 5, this is Kerry's, go ahead, Kerry.
Yeah, that's my money.
Oh, I'm sorry, 6. Why do you like to say that? Okay. Article 6.
Oh, the roof.
The roof.
The roof.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to, we're gonna ask the town, to approve $152,000 for the 1989 section of roof, 33 years old, 33 years old. And there's a lot of rooftop units that vibrate and service, so anytime there's traffic and anytime the roof is that old, as probably most homeowners know, it's time to be replaced. And we have minor leaks every year that we chase to the tune of like $2,000 a year. So I'm going to recommend that we do this all at once, and because the cost would go up every year if we didn't. And so that includes the hallway on the other side of this gym, and all the, like Audrey's classroom, and all the way down all this whole middle school. So it's actually 2 levels, and it's about 15,000 square feet. So approximately $1,000 a square, so. But I got a high-end quote, and I'm planning on getting other quotes, I think they're gonna come up, so this is probably like a worst-case scenario.
And Kerry, what if that doesn't pass?
But we're gonna ask about a 2-year situation, right?
That would be the next article, that's why
Yeah.
we segued into that.
Yeah, so what I would do is ask the town for half of it this year and half of it next year, knowing that it would be approximately a $3,600 increase, because this quote goes up $3,600 every year on average. So I would try to sell the whole thing at once, because we would save about $3,600. And, let's do it, and, no more leaks. And a guaranteed roof for a while, and they've improved materials over the years, the rubber is better, and there'd be a little bit of extra insulation installed and stuff like that, and it's just time. I've been kicking the can on this for a while, and it's time, so.
And this is, people have seen the leaks out in the hallway.
Yeah.
That's the part that would be replaced.
Yes,
I
and
probably walk through the building, you see the little leaks in this hallway. That's the problem.
In classrooms,
Yeah.
they're everywhere.
1989, we added on quite a bit. This gym, 1989, and all, like, you can see brickwork like on the other side of the hallway there. That was part of the school back in the 70s. So all this hallway going down here, and to the left, there's several, middle school classrooms, and the roof's 32 years old. Yes, sir.
Carrie, even in the new classroom where Karen Beaverstock is,
What's that?
one of the new classrooms, remember when they bumped out in the renovation with
Yeah.
Karen Beaverstock's classes? There's leaks in that room.
Yeah, we've been chasing that, and we did get a
Even
little
on
bit
the
of
new
warranty.
part,
warranty
newer
work.
part.
In 2011, when we added on all that new section, we did a lot of the roof that was like 1972, 1978, 1979. We did quite a bit then. So what's remaining is 1989 roof. And after we're done with that, everything will be 2011 roof wise. It's just part of having a building this large.
I don't know if you can see it from your seat, but right where that heat vent right there, there's leaks there, and there's also leaks. Just beyond that heating vent there, you can see the tiles are discolored right over there. The rest of the gym looks pretty good, but it's the seams on the edge. It's here.
There's also going to be some brick waterproofing involved, where normally when you have brick, the mason's sprayed with a waterproofing, but it doesn't last forever. So that will also be part of the package to, if you walk by in the hallway, also, there's water running down after a good storm. So, we want to eliminate that, because, you can have minor leaks, but they don't fix themselves, and they only get worse, so it's time.
Okay, so that is the package of Article 6. If Article 6 passes, Article 7 is tabled, we will not vote on that.
We don't have on this, sometimes we've had the tax impact on each warrant article.
No, but we could get a sheet to put the tax impact on each warrant article added. We've had that in the past.
Because people will ask, oh, how much is that gonna cost us? And if you see it's like, it's 10 cents extra per thousand or something like that, it doesn't look as scary, so. Yeah.
Okay. Any question on any warrant article? Ms. Dutcher?
On Article 5, the date for the current balance, that is correct, should be 2020.
Let me see.
Yeah.
Date typos on Article 5.
Yeah, that's why we're here tonight,
Oh, okay.
we're here to refine everything that may be an issue. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, you had a question? Yep, go ahead.
Similarly, the balances listed in that, say, 137,000, but the numbers in the back say 251.
Where are you in the?
I know what you're talking
Page 7 or
about.
page 8 versus page 39.
I know what you're talking about. The capital reserve balance
Okay,
especially is off, right? You look at the
Well,
capital.
which
reserve.
one is right? Because I know you guys are like going back and forth about this at a meeting.
oh, yeah.
Still are.
We asked for it to be checked. We did get an email. Let me see which one is correct. Because we felt that it was closer to the 137 just because we used so much of it, but.
And that makes a big difference because
Yeah.
if you have 250,000, why
Yeah.
don't we take some out of it to do the roof?
Sure.
Believe me, I wanna know what it is, believe me. My mindset would be totally different.
It's nice to have $200,000 in there. I mean, it really is because. All
Are you
right.
looking at Article 5 or 4?
Well, actually, 4 is wrong too, if you compare the numbers. But I was looking at 5. Because that number is largely different.
15,000.
Okay. I'm downloading something.
Was that the balance before the septic system?
Probably.
I feel like there was about 250 in there before that.
I've
We
been trying
did.
to get this verified, and we're still trying to get it verified, like I say, it's gonna make a big difference to me.
We don't get bank statements with that on?
Okay.
You know, you have to talk to the SAU.
We don't, Glenn sent us a whole, we had this problem, you may have heard in our last meeting.
Forgive me.
I asked for the history of that account to double check it, because that's the only way we can know for sure. How much money, when did we take money out over the last 2 years? And he did send it to us, and I can't get online to look at my emails. Everybody got it.
We depend on the trustee of the trust funds in the SAU to give us those balances. The board doesn't hold those. Did you have an answer for that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, we got detailed statements that the board requested.
Are you guys all?
Yeah. I'm on.
That's what he said. We'll get an answer for you now.
Yeah, because we do have the emails from him. We had him go back.
Capital reserve activity?
Yeah.
You got that?
Subject.
Did you get me in? Yep.
We'll have it for you then.
Opening balance. Yeah, it is. It's saying as of, what I'm seeing, as of July 1st.
Here's your answer.
Yeah. I'm gonna go to, this is balance. Hold on. This whole, the opening balance on July 1st was 138,197. We transferred 88,000. But he doesn't tell me what we transferred in 88,000. Where did that come from? Then we lost 2835. We transferred in the 25. So we're saying it is 251,998.26. That's what I'm seeing on this.
We'll have that for the district meeting date. We'll have that exact amount for the district meeting date.
Yep.
So,
Look at the 88.
sorry,
I don't know where the 88 came from because we didn't have any other revenues going through.
This is not a statement from the bank, this is a statement from
The business.
The business, what we asked him,
business.
yeah, we asked him to show the activity for the last 2 years.
Oh, okay.
And so he gave us basically the transfers in and the money that we spent out, although he only did it, he didn't do it for the 2 years. I'm only seeing it for 6 months.
Do you get a monthly, like?
We get a monthly statement from the trustee.
So the SAU does not manage this money.
Right, we don't.
The school department does not manage this money at all. It's managed by the trustee trust funds from the town.
It's a lucky position.
Got it, thank you.
That's why we
So you have to
count.
ask so-and-so to tell so-and-so.
Exactly.
So-and-so.
Right.
So when you're saying money is.
That's the way it was set up. That was set up by the town many years ago that way. So, I'm sorry.
So
Audrey,
when
go
you're
ahead.
saying money's being transferred in and out, I get how it might be going out because you're paying for septic and whatever, but where's that money coming in from?
The $25,000 came in after the books closed, and we have approve that warrant article. Remember the $25,000 if there's any money left over?
Yeah,
So
so
you
it
can,
came in then.
so on 9/8/20, $25,000 was placed in both accounts because that was a warrant article and was approved. The 88 may have been transferred. We may have taken money out of the budget to buy something that could have been used for, come out of the capital reserve, because sometimes we do that. It's like, let's just say we had to buy a new furnace. We take it out of our budget, but then we reimburse ourselves out of the capital reserve. So he doesn't have.
I do believe it was the septic system, because that was an emergency.
That was an emergency.
Right.
Everybody remember the
We had a big
beginning.
sinkhole out there.
And that does sound like the right amount. It does sound like the right
We
amount.
used to program like one of those meetings, and we boiler issues was it, and we were gonna take some out and then repay it with the fund balance at the end.
Right.
But I do believe that 88,
The 88 sounds like the septic.
that sounds
Yeah,
like
or
something.
the leach
What was
field,
the
yeah.
date on that, Debbie?
The transfer was 8/6/20.
Yeah,
I'm thrilled to have $250,000 in there, tell you the truth.
and that'll make up the voters' mind whether they want to go for the full package or half package or take it all on a capital improvements. The townspeople will have to vote on that. Okay. Anything else? I know, Eric. Saw your hand go up and down.
If that balance, you're still trying to figure out exactly what that balance is, whether it's 137.
According to what we have right here, the figures on page 39 are correct. According to
Okay, so
this.
if that's the case,
Mhm.
would it be possible, would you consider adjusting the Article 6, warrant Article 6, to maybe take some of that out?
Yeah.
Offset the roof?
Well,
That is an approved use for that fund, correct?
yeah, definitely, for the town, I would entertain, I mean, just because I'm the facilities guy, I don't,
Right.
no one's speaking for mine. But I would entertain something like that, if indeed, and we've all been asking if that 251 is
Right.
legit.
You just want to double
If that's
check it.
legit, yeah. Like I say, my mindset has been totally different. But 137, I'm very nervous about dipping into that.
We should have $200,000 in there. That's
Yeah.
just a safe number. So, I mean, what somebody could do on the floor, they can take the roof warrant article and say, I'd like to change that to $100,000 and take $50,000 out of your capital reserve. That could be done very easily right on the floor.
We can take an amendment.
Yeah,
Up to the town.
yeah. So if this is correct, which I think it looks like it is, we must have transferred that money in from the septic and that brought us up quite a bit. So being over, I mean, you don't want to really go under 200,000, keep it, it's just you need to have that cushion. It's a huge building, if something happens.
A lot of our systems are new.
Right.
We have a really nice facility. And believe me, I work in schools a lot, and I've seen a lot of schools that are not close to this. But things happen, and, there are 500 people in this building per day. It's wear and tear, and we have a great custodial staff that takes really good care of this place. And we support them, and the town supports us, and so far so good.
Good questions,
Yeah,
good catch.
Those two pieces conclude our public hearing unless there's other questions from the public. Last call. Hearing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Our next order of business is going to set the date for the district meeting. We've had several different scenarios from the state, from our attorney, from the town, and how to run the district meeting. And I would leave it up to the board to make that decision. This scenario would be to postpone the actual vote in the district meeting to April, May, or June, to continue as planned for March 6th with using the gym the cafeteria, and the library as satellite sites, and after talking to our tech person, Aaron, right here, he said that they could be live streamed in there, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's no problem. There are screens in there, and they could be live streamed in there if we have an overflow crowd here that are not socially distanced. And we can stay with that package. We could go to a later packet, a later date that could take place outside, depending on COVID.
The one
With
concern,
vaccines, they can knock it down too. Go ahead.
the one concern that I think John brought up at our last meeting is contracts. The way our CBA is worded, I think contracts have to go out April 15th. And then they're due back May 15th or so. I may not be having the dates totally correct, but am I right? Ballpark? Yeah? Okay.
I think they go out May 1st.
Well, they have to be back.
They have to be back
For May
in
1st.
May.
So it's, but they go out April 15th. I thought we always do April 15th, no?
I think it is. I can go get the contract.
It
But I
doesn't
think it's
matter.
later
It's
than
good.
that.
The point is, if the contracts have to go out, then we need to know we have the money to offer everybody their positions back. So if the budget hasn't been approved, how do we know we have the money? So that's, I think, sort of
Right.
helps us to say, maybe we should have it earlier. Bruce did speak to our attorney.
I
You want to
did.
share what the attorney said?
Yeah, the attorney said that we could keep it at the March 6th date now, making sure that people social distance and wear masks, whereas a state mandate in public building. And we can pull back, put seats out, more seats out that allow us to get more people in here. We just cannot crowd them in any further than 6 feet apart at this time. And like I said, use 2 satellite areas that'll be streamed in with a counter, with the person that'll be counting votes in both areas if we have a hand vote. If there's a valid vote, then we would have to make some kind of in and out door with a procedure to the checklist people to get a ballot to go ahead and vote in secret on that. Otherwise,
How would we handle public comment?
public comments would be the way they are now, and people could come up. So it's
In the
6
room that they are assigned to?
Well, that's, I mean, for here in the gym, yes. Aaron, I'm not sure if,
How can we do that, Aaron? Tell us.
huh?
Yeah, that's pretty simple. Yeah.
Right.
Just set up a microphone in either one of those rooms and we could just, the normal protocol, I step right up and I can broadcast it right out through here,
Okay, Erica,
real time.
does that answer that?
Sure.
What
Okay.
is the town doing?
I don't know what the town is doing right now. I haven't heard any changes.
Haven't heard any changes from the two.
Yeah, I think the town is status quo on their meeting the week after us. So,
Could you allow public comment, like, just have the door open in a
Yeah.
hallway so people can still walk to the microphone?
absolutely, we could have an entrance door and an exit door to come in, walk up to the podium, get 6 feet between each other and line and come up and ask questions. Yeah, that would not be a problem either.
The other thing you could do is have like maybe one side of the room, or they have chairs like 2 together, so if spouses come, you came in a cohort, you could sit.
Yeah,
together.
family cohorts would count as one. If let's say we could accommodate 60, but we had 2 people come in from one family, that would count as one.
Yeah,
I envision the family cohorts sitting in the bleachers and individuals sitting in chairs on the floor. Unless there's somebody that needs some kind of disability to sit in a chair. But that would be the only change. Because where you're sitting right along the edge there, we could put the cohorts or a couple seats up or whatever.
I also think the town folks felt they could do it, easier than the school, because it's usually a smaller group. The school budget is usually more people typically than the town.
Actually, the town has more people than the school usually.
I think last year,
Last year was a big year.
yeah, but usually the school, I think, is bigger.
Usually we have an average of 100 people. Last year we had over that, just because we
I
had a
think we
lot
had
of.
300 something.
Yeah.
What was it?
337 or something like that.
Oh, it was a contract deal.
And it was also the withdrawal.
Yeah,
We had
withdraw on
we
the
had
budget.
two big things to vote on, so.
Yeah, we've had some bad years when there's something controversial on the budget. This year is pretty benign. Warrant article, as far as the only exception would be the roof, would be the odd one that's, well, added on this year.
Do
So,
we want to adjust that warrant article for the roof now?
What are you asking, Debbie? I can't hear you.
No, I was just wondering,
no, we'll talk about that and we can adjust it on the floor that day.
on the floor,
I want to
okay.
make sure the numbers are
Okay.
correct first.
Okay, all right,
We're getting from two different sources,
okay.
just to absolutely make sure.
Well, if we feel confident with the technology, I would stick with the March date. That would be my suggestion. I don't know what other board members.
How quickly can you set up a new room if we plan on having our average of 100 people here and 300 people show up? How quickly can you have technology up and running to overflow into classrooms?
Well, just set up the day before.
We really have 300 people.
Well, we could do
I guess
large,
I'm asking
we could do
about-
large classrooms as
I'm asking about a backup plan just in case.
But we have
Unexpected.
smart board, Kathy, don't we have smart boards in every classroom?
Almost everything.
Yeah, so the streaming is not a problem, and if we ended up, let's say we did end up with 300 people, let's say we had to open several more classrooms. If people wanted to, if they didn't feel comfortable walking down here, we talked about this in Northwood and Nottingham, both, they could write down their question and send it and have it read out loud. So it's not a matter of difficulty to be able to accommodate more people.
Do we have to have a room for non-mask wearers? Or are we
I
going
would
to
recommend
enforce
that
it?
non-mask wearers can stay in their cars, they can stay at home, but that we do not have a room for non-mask wearers.
I just know some districts are planning a separate room for
Yeah,
non-mask
I don't
wearers.
recommend that. I think anybody that comes to this building needs to have a mask on.
I agree with you, but in my
Non-school
experience, that
functions.
it's not been enforced. So
I am
don't know
happy,
who's
I am happy to be at the
That as
front door and make sure that it happens.
Say that needs to apply to town meeting as well.
Yeah, so the question is, who's gonna enforce it?
I'm
Well,
happy
we'll
to-
help police
happy
here.
to deal with it.
We always have an officer here from the town at our doors. She was
Neither of your fellow districts in the SAU are allowing non-mask wearers in their buildings for their session.
Yes, they haven't for the board meetings either, so please don't get me started.
I was just wondering if there was a legality to, like, asking people to RSVP, like, so you can have a, like, not that it would be required in any way, but for planning purposes, if people planned to come to the meeting, they could do like some type of, Google check-in or Eventbrite ticket. So if, then you could plan that 300 people might be coming, I mean, it'd be kind of an honor system and no, like, requirement to do it, but if that would help for planning.
I think the slowest part of the meeting would be the check-in, with the
But
social.
you don't need to check in.
Like ahead of time.
You're just getting a head count. So they would say, yes, I'm planning on coming.
Oh, I
You would
see.
go, okay, 150 people have responded that they're planning on coming, so I'm gonna set up for 200 just to be safe. You may have 100 people show up the next day, but they don't have to check in or anything. It's just a way a lot of places are using to get head counts for people, for preparation. There's no like, check in, there's no.
Well, there's gonna be have to check in for the vote.
That's fine, yeah, but.
And I anticipate that being the slowest portion of the whole process. Getting people checked in at the supervisors of the checklist, keeping their distance width-wise and lengthwise.
Did we really have 300 people last year?
I think so.
I don't know if we did.
Yeah,
Did?
we did.
We can get the
I
count.
know it was.
It was a really big crowd.
Right.
And we had two major
We
things.
had a lot to decide,
It was probably the last time that many people were together.
yeah.
Well, no, the
You're
last,
right.
the,
Town meeting and then that was it. Town meeting was the 11th.
the biggest school district meeting was when we wanted to build our own school and withdraw from Co-Brown. Over 500 people.
Yeah,
I
you were
missed
saying
that by 3 months. I wasn't here. So I was somewhere.
That was the biggest meeting that we had since I've been on the board, which is a long
When we
time.
had that meeting, remember when the walls fell down?
The wall
We were
fell
over
down.
at
That was-
program, we had our meeting in in the Co-Brown
Yeah.
gym.
Yeah.
And we had a
That
lot
was
of
a big
people
crowd.
too. That was.
That was a good size too, yeah. All right, so is there a motion from the board to go with Marcel? I'm sorry, you got a question? Thank you.
Sounds like having this meeting before we can do teacher contracts is pretty important. What is the possibility of moving that contract deadline at all?
That's
a question for the attorney. If you were to delay your meeting, we'd need to work with Megan on how to handle that. The other two districts in SAU have decided to postpone their meetings and their towns have postponed, and their board attorneys are looking at different options for dealing with contracts.
And I think they're not going to until June, right?
Yep.
They postponed. What does Northwood do?
They're going to do their deliberative in May and their vote in June.
But by doing that, you are having the tax rate will be doubled up close to the next payment. So, I mean, in March, we'll be ready for the tax payment in May. If they do it in June, tax payments already come out in May, they'll be doing it after the fact and get another tax bill right away after that, so.
The towns.
Yeah, we're trying not to hurt the people of the town by asking for the amount and then more on top of it in case, because we're up on the budget, so. We are allowed by the new executive order that Governor Sununu signed, was it yesterday, or the day before, to keep a status quo budget that we have this year until that vote comes up. But it's the additional monies that'll be added on to all taxpayers afterwards. So that's the part we're kind of worried about. Nobody wants that. I don't want that. You know, we all pay taxes here. We don't want that.
I think March is fine as long as things don't change.
Right.
And I do think we need to do a snow date,
Okay.
because if we're doing it in public, in person, then we usually did the Saturday and then the snow date was Wednesday. Because you still can have a blizzard in March.
Yes, we have. So the chair would entertain a motion if we want to keep that date or move it. It's up to you, up to the board.
I'm gonna be looking at the date. What date did we say that? Okay, so we're thinking, when's the town meeting?
It would be the week after us.
So would we do ours before voting or after voting? Because before, okay, so we have the 6th is before.
Yep.
So we would have it, all right, I'll make a motion to continue to have our school district meeting, regular time period, for March 6th at 9 o'clock with a snow date of Wednesday, March 10th at 6 p.m. This is contingent upon everything being fine to be able to still meet together.
COVID related.
COVID related, that we can still meet together.
Okay. We have further discussion?
Our moderator had suggested that we not do that. I just should point out that he recommended postponing.
Yeah.
So to a certain extent, we can vote what we want, but it is ultimately up to him anyway.
Well, after hearing him last time, it's up to him and us.
Yeah, I think he suggested, because the
He can put a
email, he just
suggestion.
said it was a suggestion.
If he doesn't come, we'd have to appoint a moderator that day.
So,
We could take our vice principal
okay,
and put him.
I'm gonna amend my motion to say,
See if you're paying attention now.
as long as we're all in agreement with the moderator and we're all on the same page, because I think the moderator needs to weigh in. I think he'll go along with what we want. Okay, so I just amended it to add.
All right. Any further discussion?
I don't know if I had a second.
I can second the amendment.
Okay, I thought I heard you say. Okay, Debbie,
Yes.
Misty?
Yes.
Terry? Yes. Erica?
No.
And myself, yes, so that is a tentative date. I mean, that, we could come in 2 weeks and change that if all of a sudden things get worse in the world.
Right, and that was in the motion,
Right.
that if things get worse, but we are ready, we're following the dates and having all of our budget done, our warrants will be posted, and we're all set.
At this time, the budget hearing is closed. We are still meeting as a board. Is there anything else to come in front of the board tonight? Do we have a resignation?
We need a brief non-public session.
What?
Accept your resignation.
We can accept it in public.
Megan said do it in non-public.
We're not gonna vote.
She said you can do it in non-public.
Having a little discussion.
And she told me that today. She said to do it in
We're
non-public.
not going to, but, okay. All right. So, but we do have a resignation,
Yes.
and so we will accept the resignation in public. I'm sorry to argue with you, but our resignations and nominations are always in public. We don't do anything behind the scenes. So we do have a resignation. Do you have that? For
Yes, we have a resignation from Mr. Jim Bono,
Okay, effective when?
and that is effective, I'm sorry, I don't have the printout.
Oh, I thought it was Friday.
I thought it was the 22nd for some reason.
January 20, I was thinking it was the 27th.
I could look it up.
That's
I
today.
got him in here. I'm sorry, January 31st.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of Mr. Jim Bono effective January 31st.
And that's with regrets?
With regret.
With regrets. We wish him well and we hope that
Mhm.
he's. And we had a second. Is there further discussion on this?
Are we looking for any other person to fill that position?
We will have to, because that's
Yeah,
an
we'll
important
have to
position,
post it.
important position in our school, so.
Okay.
Would that be posted from now to the end of the year? Would it fall under hiring, since it's an administrative position, added to the list of VA and other ones that is being handled by Mr. Freeman and that search process for the
Possibly.
full time?
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, we would have to put a temporary person in there.
I was gonna say, we can't go without somebody.
Right.
No, that's what I meant.
Well, we've been having some temporary
I know somebody who can help y'all temporarily.
Yes, and we, okay. All
That's,
right.
that's what we're looking for, temporary position.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Debbie?
Yes.
Misty?
Yes.
Carrie? Yes. And Erica?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Anything else for public session at this time?
Motion to adjourn. Oh, no, sorry, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, Mr. Freeman had a presentation.
I'm so sorry.
John had a presentation.
Thank you. I don't want to take too long, because believe me, I could go on for several hours on this topic. But I'm hoping that you did
Use the
receive,
microphone.
I got the message.
Can you use the microphone? Oh, they're recording you for the people.
Did you get copies of the two documents which I submitted?
No.
I think, John, I think that Mary must have thought you meant the regular school board meeting, not tonight.
Oh,
Tonight she just sent the budget
oh,
information.
okay,
I think that's what she must have thought.
okay.
Maybe she could forward it to us in an email.
You want to continue then?
Yes.
It would be great if you had this in front of you, but anyway, I guess I could continue since I have the floor, and I'm not one to give it up once I have it, quite honestly. But what I proposed to you was a couple of items. One was the hiring schedule and what it could look like for each of the positions. And they're sort of staggered in a way that makes sense to me, and as well as the key elements. And I also included a team charter. One of the things that we're used to doing is making sure that everybody understands their roles, whether they're teams or committees or subcommittees. And so I drafted a team charter for the group, and went through the key elements of this process, which I think we ought to get started on, at least the principle at this time, and move ahead with this group. And I know we've solicited some interest, and we have some individuals who are involved, and we have two school board members who are ready to go.
Did you want me to run and make copies of that for all of these folks?
Sure, that'd be great.
And I just want to let everybody know that we had I think it was nine people that did say, we still have one more day, if anybody else is interested in being on that committee, who did submit emails to us, and I forwarded them to John. So John has the people who are interested in being on the committee.
Yeah, so I don't know the folks except the two board members, and so we do have a team of 11, and I think a couple of more days left. And
I think till
if
tomorrow.
other folks come forward, I think that would be okay as well. I was thinking that 12 to 15 might be the max. But we would go through a process that's a little bit different from what we're used to in schools, in that the method would be called a guided storytelling approach. And so what typically happens in schools when hiring is done is people ask sort of the generic questions. Tell us about yourself. What have you done since high school? Those sorts of things. And those are really not very reliable in terms of learning who you have in front of you. And in fact, some estimates are that it's like 50-50. And quite honestly, as thorough as I thought I've done interviewing in the past, this traditional method has almost resulted in a 50-50 success rate and having to let people go, which is bad for the organization and obviously bad for those individuals. A second level is, a second sort of interview question is a behavioral interview, which is a little bit better and increases your odds. So it might say, you might say something like, tell us about a time in your administrative past when you've done A, or tell us about your experience using such a methodology. That gets you a little bit more information. But to get to the deeper information, to find out what type of person you have, to create the real distinctions, we found that the guided storytelling approach, which was developed by Bill Bryan, I think I've mentioned his name earlier, with whom I've worked for a number of years, national consulting firm in terms of school searches. The guided storytelling method asks folks to basically do that. The interviewer will give prompts and ask the individual to tell stories around their career, around their personal experiences. The interviewer then really is rather impolite and interrupts that person at critical points, because we want to understand thoughts and feelings behind decisions, behind the way that people made their decisions. And it grew out, I think I mentioned last time, of a critical incident interviewing that developed during World War II, in which people sought to understand what went behind those decisions. Because what you do when you interview is you want to really separate those individuals. We have, my understanding is between 15 and 20 candidates right now for the principal position. And they differ in a number of ways. So the easy way to see how they differ is to understand, by looking at their resume, see what sorts of jobs they did. You can ask them questions if you wanted to about what sorts of literacy programs they engage in and those sorts of things. The deeper questions, though, that I'm talking about will ask people, will enlighten the group as to the values, as to the beliefs, as to the natural aptitudes of people, those things that you really can't change. As I mentioned last time, you can teach people management skills, but you can't teach people to be empathetic. You can teach people skills in reading and writing instruction, but you really find a hard time to teach people how to be courageous or equitable. And those are the things that you don't typically get at in interviews unless you're lucky, and this guided storytelling approach will allow you to do. And so what I proposed in the key position, the key tasks are to post a position, to form a search committee, and for these different roles, the search committee would look a little bit differently. I think that it's fantastic and it's ideal if we have a variety of community members, including staff members, involved in a principal search. I think in terms of the administrative assistant, not necessary. So we would trim that down and perhaps have a smaller group do those interview processes. C is establish performance criteria. And this is really a critical workshop. It takes a little bit longer with the participants. If we have really tight behavior descriptions, job descriptions, we might use those as a lead. But what we'll do is go through a process where we'll look at the various roles that the principal is expected to play. We'll look at critical knowledge, skills, and talents, and we'll try to understand what does this person need to do? What are those critical attitudes that will help this person be successful in terms of the challenges that are ahead, whatever they might be, in terms of working with the school board, in terms of working with colleagues, in terms of working with other administrators, parents, students. And so we'll take a look at those key qualities. We'll also look at leadership style, and Bill Bryan has developed a structure where there are sort of four productive leadership styles, such as a coach, for example, would be a leadership style. And we've got all these very well defined behavioral descriptions. So we have those behavioral descriptions of positive leadership styles, but we also have negative leadership styles, non-productive leadership styles. And he's got kind of amusing names for some of them. One of them is called the hammer. You can imagine what that's like. Nobody wants to work for a hammer. The friend, not very appealing to sometimes, but not really effective in terms of the organization. So we'll take a look at styles and establish the performance criteria as a group and come to an agreement. It's hard to narrow it down and validate what we come up with through our own processes and in comparing those issues that have come up to leaders that we've known. We then would screen applications with those qualities in front of. Oh, I almost forgot one other is we would also identify the derailers. What are those things that would definitely put this person out of the running? And so I mentioned that I've looked at some of the applications, and a couple of the applications have experiences which suggest to me that that person wouldn't be someone I could recommend. And I don't want to get into it now, but it would be important for the group to identify sort of what would take this candidate right off the table. And so we would take a look at those things as well. Screen applications in terms of in terms of those criteria that we've established, and then come down to a limited number. So we're starting with 15 or 20, assuming that that's our number. If we can get that down to a half dozen, then we would go on to E, which is the telephone screening. It's a half hour or so, in which we do a shortened version of the guided storytelling. It will allow us to learn a little bit more about the individuals, sort of bring them to life. Off the page, it's amazing what you find out about people. People are willing, when they're talking, to tell you everything. It is amazing in this process. If, for example, however, that when we screen the applications, we only get 2 or 3 we feel strongly about, then I would suggest we'd eliminate the telephone screening and go directly to the guided storytelling with those 2 or 3. We don't want to waste anybody's time just for sort of an arbitrary number. The guided storytelling interviewing is a bit time consuming. It takes a couple of hours, I think I mentioned last time. And that really involves having each of the candidates tell us stories about their professional career, about their lives, that allow us to hear them and hear what of our critical criteria they possess. So the best predictor of future behavior, of course, is past behavior. And anybody who's tried to change a habit, lose weight or stop smoking or cut down on this or that or work exercise into their lives, we know that the best behavior for the future is what's happened in the past. And so that's why you really want to dig into this critical incident sort of style. After we have interviewed a limited number of candidates, perhaps 2 or 3, we would go down then and evaluate each candidate in terms of, again, our criteria, conduct the mandatory reference checks, of course, and schedule a couple of community meetings. Some of the things that the board did with my candidacy, I think are very important to do. In essence, the community meetings at this point would be just kind of a chemistry check to see how candidate A or candidate B interacts with both faculty and staff and parents and other community members. And so those would be scheduled, and ideally a candidate would come to the school board. That is a detailed process, and I think a great process for key school leaders. So for the principal, for example, a lot less necessary for the administrative assistant. And so when we take a look at some of these positions, I think the way we would modify that is who is on the search committee. But I think the steps in identifying the key critical criteria is still valuable for each of these positions, and will form the basis not only for professional development coming into the job, because there are no perfect candidates, of course, present company excluded, but there are no perfect candidates. And so that person coming in will come in with an area or an area 2 or 3 in which they know that some work needs to be done, some support is needed. So that's what I'm proposing, at least to get started pretty quickly with the principal position. So I have drafted this principal search committee charter. Again, we like to have everything out here so everybody knows the rules at the outset, good role descriptions, good committee charters, and that sort of thing. So being generous with the time, I'm estimating that over a 2.5-month period, it will take between 18 to 23 hours. I think that's more than generous. I don't think it will really take that long, but I'd rather go on the outside. It's like you're in a meeting and you'd rather be let out before the time, the scheduled closing time than afterwards. And if you take a look at the bottom of the page and on to the second page of this charter, you can see that they're sort of spread out by weeks. Again, I think that we can tighten these up, but I want it to be very generous, knowing how difficult it is to get people together and not knowing what the weather will be like and all that sort of thing. The process is there, and ideally we would come up with one finalist super candidate for board action. So what I'd like to do is to get started. We have, as Deb said, 9 individuals. We have 2 board members. We have a couple more days for people to express interest. And if by the time that the open period for expressing interest closes, which is Friday or Sunday or sometime soon.
Tomorrow is the last day. If anyone is interested in being on this committee, they need to send an email.
Great, thank you. What I'd like to do then is schedule that first search committee kickoff meeting for the week after next, if that sounds okay to you. And we'll get going in this process.
So will you, John, I've been forwarding everyone's emails to you.
Yes.
So will you be the person who is organizing it and contacting them to set up the meetings?
I will for the first meeting.
Okay.
And then together we'll set up the other meetings.
Okay.
And then we'll elect a chair. I consider myself a facilitator. We would elect a chair. We need a recorder, and we need a communications lead also. And so we'll select those individuals in those roles after they get started. So I will set up the initial meeting, and I'm going to ask you and Erica tomorrow which dates look good for you, and I'll give you the dates and some possibilities, and then we'll move on from there with the whole group.
So do you foresee us meeting in person or?
That would be the ideal. I don't think it's necessary, but that would be the ideal.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to schedule them in person. I'd like to schedule them for here in the school.
Okay.
But if people are unable to or want to participate remotely, I think that can happen also.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was my question.
Yeah.
Okay, so anybody who's listening, we're probably going to be 6 to 8 weeks process.
Yep.
About 18 to 23 hours of a time commitment.
Yep.
And you will be getting in touch for the first meeting. So people are listening who sent their emails. You'll probably hear from, you're going to reach out beginning of the week, did you say?
Yes, after they close,
Okay.
it closes tomorrow.
Yeah.
I would like to reach out to you and Erica and schedule the first meeting. I think you're critical members.
Okay.
And so I'd like to accommodate your needs. I'm pretty flexible that week. And then we'll select the time and date and get it out to everybody. And if they can make it, that'd be great. And if not, if they want to either come in remotely or jump in meeting number 2, that's okay too. I think we have to be
Great.
flexible.
And we also, because this process was a little longer getting started, we did reopen the application process. So we've already heard we have 2 more applicants, and that date closes this weekend as well. So everything will close this weekend and we'll be all set. That's great.
Sean, would it be helpful for you if we set you up with the Strafford School's email address
I don't think so.
for that business?
He
Okay.
doesn't want
I don't
to.
think
We had a discussion about that. It-
Okay.
it's- He
That was
puts him in an
discussion.
awkward
But thank
position.
Okay.
Thank you, because there are some, to be blunt, there are some folks I'd like to hear from, and other
Okay.
folks that I just don't need to hear from just
Okay,
yet.
I understand.
But thank you, but I will have the need to do some photocopying, and I'm assuming I can come into the school and have that done. Thank you.
This is terrific. Thank you very much.
This is so awesome. We are so thankful and blessed. Can you imagine that we have our superintendent who's really coming on board 6 months earlier and volunteering his time as a community member? That is pretty awesome. Thank you.
I love it. Thanks for the opportunity.
We thank you.
Appreciate it. then I think we can talk about those other positions as we move along a little bit and see how this process goes. As I said, I think this is a critical one and one that would require sort of the most commitment of time and energy. So, right, thanks a lot.
Thank you, John.
And John, I got half of the high school assignments form signed as you were doing that presentation, so I appreciate that. I thought I'd get them all done.
I noticed you're multitasking there.
Well, I'm not on the committee, but so I was listening to your dates and the setups.
All right,
I can be informed, but I'm not a part of the selection process there.
great, thank you.
Okay, do we have anything else for public session? Yes, okay, we want to do public comments?
I have one question, Bruce. I see on the line for paraprofessionals, it only shows the 3 general. It doesn't show the other 16, I guess it would be.
They're on a different.
Are they in special ed?
Yeah.
That's where they are.
Okay, okay, I just want to know where that line was, okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yes.
Now, we're cutting back to 3, no. I'm kidding.
Yeah, that would be awful. Our budget, we don't need.
Just turn me down just a little.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like 16.
You had a question, Big Box?
I have a question, more of a comment. Ms. Freeman, it's wonderful to have you here. I've worked for you in Pittsfield, and I've worked for other people that have worked for you. Listening to him speak with you right now, it really brings me hope that the school will be turned back into the community that it once was, and with the trust and the teachers working together with the administration that we once had as well. Perfect candidate for the job, so even though you may be volunteering and doing all those things, you've got a little nugget right there handed to you, so kudos on that for hiring, and I look forward to seeing you.
Thank you very much.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Debbie?
Yes.
Misty?
Yes.
Carrie? Yes. Erica? And myself, yes, it's unanimous. Everybody, thank you for coming out tonight. Hopefully we'll see you all on March 6th. Socially distanced. John, nice job, thank you.
Thank you. So Aaron, we're all set for February 10th at that 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock, yep.
John's good, Christie's good.
Yep, just like we did that first
I
time,
was
a couple
wondering,
weeks
do you
ago.
think Linda should
What's
be
that?
there too?
She wants to, yeah, I invited her, yep.